csnwashington.com.
The way it ended was perfect. Fitting for the season. On the shoulders of superstar John Riggins. Fitting for the character of that team. 15 months earlier, October of 1981, an ending like that must have seemed unlikely. The 1982 Redskins reaching those heights? Impossible. Joe Gibbs, 5 games into his young tenure as a head coach in the NFL. 0 wins, 5 losses.
You don't really start thinking too many deep thoughts when you're 0-5, and you don't have time, I don't think, to start analyzing what the other guy's doing right or doing wrong. What Joe Gibbs was doing was foreign to me somewhat because he came from a completely different system that I'd ever been associated with.
I mean, there were some second thoughts. You know, I know the coaches had second thoughts on, you know, what they thought was the right offense. I know myself as a player had second thoughts saying, are we ever going to win a game?
But out of that winless first month, faith in one another was born.
Sometimes you learn through adversity. We went 0-5. I think we learned a lot about the people that were around me.
And Gibbs learned about his quarterback, for sure.
Joe Gibbs didn't understand where football fit in my life. He thought that football was just a sidelight to all these other business enterprises of mine. And someone had told him that football wasn't important to me. Finally, we lose to the San Francisco 49ers in the 5th game of the season. I drive to Joe's house, and Joe and I have a sit-down.
I thought it was it's probably a meeting we should have. He said, look, I just want to tell you something. You know, whatever you've heard about me or anything else, the only thing I want to do is win.
The Redskins rebounded from their 0-5 start to finish 8-8. The most important adjustment? Dropping a traditional 2-back offense. Now the running game went through the one and only John Riggins.
You could see all of a sudden things were starting to fall into place. And I was starting, I think I had my first 100-yard game in Chicago, and I was starting to get the momentum back that I had had from 2 years prior.
I had no idea that we were the kind of team that we were ultimately going to become. We come back in a training camp, okay, it looks pretty good, we feel pretty good, but there's a lot of challenges were still ahead.
July 1982. As training camp opened at Dickinson College in Carlisle, one huge issue was worked out and one wasn't. Joe Theismann, free agency eligible that offseason, was signed for another 4 years. Negotiations were at times contentious. But across football land, labor rumblings between the league and players, with the potential for an owner's lockout or a player's strike. Despite the uncertainties in camp, the feeling was promising.
We're very focused, and Coach Gibbs, he line itemed everything. If we do this, this, and this is where we're going to be. And we followed his leadership, we followed his instruction, we believed in the man.
Going into '82, we had been picked last in our division. And there was a lot of talk about that, so we were a lot better team than people were giving us credit for on our team and within our group of guys.
To outsiders, more doubt after losing all 4 preseason games. Inside the organization, everybody knew Coach Gibbs showed as little as possible in exhibition play, emphasizing technique more and X's and O's less.
Joe's deal was to camouflage everything. He was very good at that. So in preseason, we basically had to take it on the chin in order to save everything for the opener.